Hello class, and welcome to week 3 of the Future of Food and Farming. First of all, I just wanted to say I'm so impressed with how you did last week with all of the assignments and how you got through materials and just the level of maturity and engagement that you've already put into this class. I'm very excited to be working with you. So let me share my screen with you to begin with so that you can see a PowerPoint that I'm going to present to you. And today we're going to talk about a bunch of different things, starting with kind of our class and what we can expect, and for us to get to know each other a little bit better through this online format, because obviously we can't meet face to face, but we can still get to know each other's faces, voices, and stories. So the first section today is talking about our class, and I'll give you some feedback on some of the assignments that you have already done and run you through what you can expect for the rest of the course. We will then talk about one of the first 2 central threads that I want you to keep in mind as we go through this semester. And the first is really the argument that a lot of what we see in terms of how we produce, distribute, and eat food can really be brought down to our relationship with nature. And the second idea is that it can also be brought down to our relationships with ourselves. And we'll talk about those 2 aspects over the next couple of weeks. So let me begin with some housekeeping items. So housekeeping is just things that you should know, any queries that I need to answer. We'll start off with these kind of items each week. So the first thing I want to tell you is that the full bibliography and the learning and teaching objectives for every single week are now up on Canvas under modules. So if you go into Canvas, into the class, like you usually would, and come down here in the left-hand menu to the modules, it will take you to this page. And the very first page up here is course bibliography and learning objectives. So you can now have a look at what's coming up and what it is that we're trying to achieve. So you see for this week of January 31st, right here, we're discussing humans and in and of nature. And there's an overview here about what we are going to be covering, teaching objectives, learning outcomes, and some of the readings that you're required to do, and some of recommended readings that you can later work into your various assignments, including your essays and final projects. These readings will be made available each week under the specific order of activities that I would like you to do. So that's where you'll find them when you are looking to download the specific readings. And then as you see, next week we'll be talking about grasping for modernity, which is this idea of how humans relate to ourselves, how we like to be modern. So we'll talk about that next week, and then et cetera, et cetera. The more that you scroll down, the more you can see every single week broken down by what you can expect from this class. And just to show you quickly, if you do go back into modules, sorry, I clicked into the wrong thing there. So go back into modules, and you can see for this week, by January 31st, as you scroll down, you will see readings uploaded. For example, here, the machine logic reading, which is just a few pages talking about the specific machine logic that's applied to agriculture, is an attachment, and then there's a discussion that we will have as we go through the course. Okay, so that's where you'll find the bibliography and the learning objectives. One of the tasks that you carried out last week was to discuss what the scholars do. And I was really impressed with your answers. You came up with things that I didn't then go on to talk about in the class reading that I set for you. You talked about skills that scholars need to have, like organizational skills, motivation. They need to want to work hard for their results. And you talked about one aspect that I found really interesting that you brought up that's very important, and that is that scholars own their mistakes and they do their best to be as accurate as possible, but if they do make mistakes, and when they do, they admit to them and own them. And feedback in terms of peer reviews. So if you recall, you all wrote 50 words, and your instructions were write the best 50 words you have ever written that answer the prompt, this is how food and farming feature in my life. And first of all, I was really enthused to read all the various ways that you connected food to your lives, but also what a great job you did on peer reviews. You pointed out when there were run-on sentences in people's paragraphs. You pointed out when they needed to capitalize words like I or Thanksgiving. You pointed out where they could have read something a little bit more carefully, what they wrote, and so on. So you did a really, really good job. And there's no point of receiving feedback or receiving a review if you then are not able to use that to improve. So one of the things that we will do throughout this course is that you will have very small, what I call scholarly tasks. So these are all the things that pertain to what scholars actually do in terms of research, in terms of looking things up, and incorporating feedback also into your work. So these will be different to your other class participation activities that are based on readings or watching a video and applying something that we have learned. So I will talk about those tasks as they come up. And one of the things I want to establish in this class is that, yes, we are all scholars, every single one of you, and that includes me. And I'd like us to be on as much of a horizontal platform together in this as possible. I've asked you, and I will keep asking you to share your various stories. You've already shared a little bit about yourselves in the various tasks that you did last week, and I will do the same. So I will share snippets of my story with you, and you will see in a later task today, when we look at class videos, I've included myself in there too, so that we can all get to know each other a little bit better. And as I just talked about, scholars do make mistakes. So a couple of you pointed out that in the syllabus quiz, there was a typo. It asked you when the deadline was, what is the first class assignment that was due this week, but actually I'm supposed to say next week, January 31st, not January 24th. So I'm very sorry about that error. That was my mistake. It was later corrected in the quiz, and I saw that most of you had gotten that question right. So apologies. I will always try to give you tasks that don't have any errors in them, but occasionally this might happen. So my apologies, and thank you so much for pointing that out. I can only improve if you help me as well. And as a scholar, your job in this class is to learn about food and agriculture, to engage with the materials and apply your best scholarly self to that. My job as a scholar is to find out a better way to present this material to you. So that's the responsibility that I have in this class. So before I kind of talk about how I'm going to do that, let's talk about the peer review that you did. So what I'd like you to do as your very first class assignment for today, and this is for your participation points, it's a very quick one. This shouldn't take you very long at all. And that is for you to rewrite the paragraph, or just edit the paragraph that you wrote for the assignment called How Food and Farming Feature in My Life. This is still up on Canvas, so you can refer back to it. So look at the feedback that your peers gave you and read your paragraph 1 or 2 more times, and then edit your paragraph to correct the errors that you notice, and then submit it to that link under discussions. I'll show you where it is. So just as usual, so you'll find that here we are in week January 31st. You're watching this video, getting to know our class, and here's your first assignment. So go to peer reviewed rewrite and submit both your original paragraph and the one that you then rewrote as a result